All right, technical difficulties. I apologize for that, guys. All right, so I apologize for that, everybody. It's Scott.
Oh, we were cruising. We were rolling right along without you.
Oh yeah, we already hit a couple questions without you, homie. I don't know where you been.
So the one I was answering was basically college placement. What's the philosophy there?
Yes.
And I think it is different for each girl. So perfect example of this is we got a couple girls that are going to King. Um, no question, that's the right place for them. They're going to go on to King and compete in those type of events in college. We had another girl that progressed so much here that we felt the best thing for her to do would be to go directly to the Olympic Training Center. So she's in Colorado Springs now training, and that was the best. And I think having girls here makes it easier for Terry and staff to make that evaluation because Aaron is working with them every day. Way back when, the whole concept of this program was to get girls and put our arms around them at a younger age, and train them and get them around our national team staff, and train them much the way that we do our senior girls. Get them out of all boys' rooms, get them out of wrestling folk style, get them overseas. The biggest tragedy that happens with girls wrestling is the girl makes her first cadet team. It's her first international competition. She goes in there having never wrestled overseas before. So the part about bringing teams in to wrestle internationally, the part about getting them to Flats, Austria this spring, getting them to international competitions and tours next year is all kind of in line with Terry's initial kind of concept is that we don't have a place where we can get some of our best girls the training that we want them to get. So when he and I started talking about this originally, we're built for that. We've been a school since 1844. We're an international boarding school. We've got kids from 25 different countries here. We can do all of the things that Northern Michigan, where we used to send seniors and girls like that, can't do. That's a college campus. They're going to a local high school. We can do all of that stuff, and then Aaron can come in and do the wrestling part. So that's the philosophy behind the program. And if there's like one thing that kind of people walk away from this podcast with is that's what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get them opportunities to train the way that they're going to train when they're senior level athletes earlier on, just like, every other country in the world does,
Yeah.
instead of having them wrestle folk style up until they're 16 or 17 years old. It's modeled after the most successful programs in the world. So that's where the kind of philosophy comes from. And in 1 year, we got a lot of good girls out here. Is it going to look very very different in 5 years? Is it going to be something where every girl has to kind of consider it as a choice if they're going to be a top level athlete? Well, we hope so. That's what the plan is. So after 1 year, our evaluation is pretty good, but we know we got a lot of work to do to continue to attract the best quality athletes. But we know that with USA Wrestling support and with the philosophy that we're kind of building, that we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the conversations that Mario and I had when we first, were discussing seminary. Was is it the best thing for overall for girls wrestling to, basically go into a garden and pick all the roses and just say, oh, well, for some reason we're not getting rose bushes, and it's like, no, but and speaking with you, you kind of made it, a good observation. From my point was like, okay, well, you're going to have those girls who just they need what they need for themselves. They need to grow themselves,
This
and they
became
need the
to me.
resources.
This became important to me. I've coached Division I college level. I've coached at a lot of different high schools. And about 2004, 2005, I was coaching a high school team in New York State, in Oxford, New York, and I had a student athlete, a girl wrestler, who had just outgrown everything that I could do from her there. She was a junior in high school. Her name's Tony Copeland. She's 167 pounds. What am I doing? What am I sending out there to wrestle and dual meets for folk style when she's already winning matches on the senior level in college, in opens and things like that. So that's when it became important to me as primarily a boys coach. Before that, we had always had good girls in our club before, and they had always had some success in Fargo. But she was like just at the level where there's nothing I could do to accommodate her. She needs to be wrestling girls in competition. So her senior year of high school, she went out to Northern Michigan, which was really the only option at that time in the USOEC there. And it was tough. It was a tough call to make for all the reasons that you're talking about. She was an ambassador of wrestling in New York State. Other girls looked up to her, you know. And unfortunately, you know, the really tough part of the story is out in Northern Michigan. That she was wading in the lake and passed away. She drowned. So that when that became critical to me to be able to do something in the Northeast, which lacks for opportunities for girls, it's been something that I've been working on ever since that time. You know what I mean? Ever since those days, to be able to get something that has some permanency, get something that has some opportunity attached to it, so that if we get more girls like Toni Copeland, we can send them down the road to train instead of halfway across the country. That's what this is always all about.
Okay, nice. Let me see here. What question are we on? Mario number.
You're on number 7, buddy. We're at the end of our list before we start freestyling it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me see. Okay. Rumor has it, okay, that the Walkers are set on Columbia, where there's no girls wrestling. Is that true? And what is their wrestling future that you know of?
So another part of this whole endeavor is if you look at the colleges that support girls wrestling, is there's no Northeast, and there are very, very few. And the Walker girls are PA, kind of born and bred. They're right here, and we talked to them coming in, and we talked to all our girls coming in, our Kennedy Blades, the girls that are coming in here, Ava Bayless, who are all superstar students. And we said, listen, like at some point, someone's going to be the first of something, you know, someone's going to be the first girl that goes to Princeton and trains at their RTC. Someone's going to be the first girl that goes to Cornell and trains at their RTC. And we're going to tip this model on its head a little bit and really kind of start to show schools in the Northeast that they can get incredible student athletes that can come in and be trailblazers in women's sports. And we're hopeful that some of that will start. Now they wouldn't be the first girls at Columbia. Bree Santos trains there now from Texas. So she's already there, and it started that pathway. And you know, if we can kind of just continue to work and use that momentum, Columbia's first wrestling program in the country, wouldn't it be great if it's one of the first girls wrestling, you know, programs in the country too? So certainly Amanda and Caitlin have their eyes on Columbia and all sorts of other great schools like that. And we feel, you know, our platform is going to help us sell wrestling at some of the colleges in the Northeast.
Okay, great. All right, Mario, you want
Okay,
to?
so now a lot of these may be the questions that you saw on the podcast originally. These are just me and my buddy Richard over here just kind of thinking out loud. And I guess my first one is about that 1.5 million that got written to USA Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the gentleman was from Pennsylvania, so I have no objection to where if he's like, hey, this needs to go to X school or whatever. I guess my question is when he wrote it, did he allot X amount of dollars for Wyoming Seminary specifically as a school, or was it allotted to grow women's wrestling as a whole?
I don't. It's not a gift that comes to Wyoming Seminary, so I don't know that. You know what I mean?
Got it. Because he's from the area, so if he did do it, it wouldn't be surprising to me. I just don't know if that's the verbiage, because I don't think you can tell anyone what he can do and not do with his money. If he wants to give you $1 million to do with your women's wrestling program, he should give you $1 million. You know.
No one knows that more than I do. I work at a private school, you know, so I mean, there are probably people in our math department or you know, when they see us getting donations and buying new stuff, they're like, well, how come that donor doesn't give money to our academics or our, you know, to get air conditioning on this floor of the dorm? And the bottom line is you can't tell people what they want to do with their money, you know? So I don't believe, and I may be wrong on this, but I don't believe there's anything specific in Dave Lehman's gift that says it has to go to Wyoming Seminary. What I do believe is that he, because this has been coming for a long time, had extensive conversations with Terry, the best way to allot that money. And Terry obviously feels very, very passionately about this program. So he has decided to send a small portion of it to us in way of services, in way of supporting girls teams coming in here, way of helping our girls get to camps and other training opportunities.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So Scott, with regards to your guys' competitive calendar, how many times a year do your girls compete? During the season, during the year.
So the concept is, again, and this is very, very European in nature, is that we want them to be on a 5 or 6 week periodization schedule, like you would have for the Open Women's National Team. Even with my youth guys, I wish I could do it with my folk style guys, but we try to stress like 80% training, 20% competition, and that's what your kind of your whole program should look like. So I think we probably would be okay with them competing once a month throughout the year. Last year was the first year, so we did some things where maybe we wanted to go and help grow the sport or do a clinic beforehand. We threw a lot of stuff at the wall and we saw what stuck. You know what I mean? And with the idea in mind that the priority was going to be the World Team Trials. That's the whole point of this whole thing, is to get them to peak down in Texas in May. And I think everybody who knows the sport knows the best way to do that isn't to have this like grind schedule where you compete it's a very like American folk style construct. And that's not what we're about. That's not what this girls program is going to be about ever. It's being able to train smarter, being able to get away from some of those things that holds girls back and limits them. So
that's what I was going to say too. Like, it's very against what people argue. Does folk style hurt freestyle? And people always say, "Oh, well, they, some of our best wrestlers go through the whole college season and still make a world team."
Sure.
And it's like, yeah, you do have your freaks that kind of can endure that grind for that long. But I think even those guys who are doing both are generally on like a modified schedule.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think for the boys with weight management and being in shape and everything like that, when we're wrestling at the Ironman and the Powerade and all those tournaments, you don't really take a ton of days off because you can't, but you try to rest and that is part of your training. For these girls, I mean, trust me, I am jealous as hell every time I'm in January in the midst of like a 5th practice day in a row and I'm over and the girls are doing their lift or they're playing a game or they're doing something fun. And, it's great to see that philosophy trickle down to the high school level, because I think as more girls get exposed to that type of training and that schedule and that periodization, I think we'll have better retention as they get older and age through the process. I learned a lot from Adeline about that this year, about her talking about her body and how it's holding up and how she did a lot of things wrong when she was young because she was that bigger girl who had to wrestle boys. And, if she had it to do all over again and she had opportunities like this, she might have another quad in her, you know what I mean? Or something like that. But at this point, it's like, let's get to the next one and evaluate. And we don't want girls in that situation. We don't want them physically, mentally beat up from wrestling 60 boys matches every year from the time they're 10 to they're 18 before there's actual girls tournaments. So, selling that philosophy, it's been challenging at times. Parents naturally want to see the kids competing a lot more. But I think our results at Body Bar, everyone kind of had like an aha moment. Girls, parents, everyone. They're like, wow, that's the best I've seen my girl wrestle.
Well, and kind of piggybacking on that, Mario and I have had the discussion before, and some of us other coaches have had discussion in the background. It sounds like you put a lot more emphasis on Body Bar than Fargo.
Well, I mean, naturally, like our girls go home after Body Bar. Like we can't, they're high school kids. We're not going to keep them here all summer. We can't train them. So, like we're like kind of like, okay, you're leaving in May. Maybe we'll see you at a training camp or something like that. But we have girls from Colorado. We have girls from North Dakota. They're from all over the place. So as soon as they leave in May, they're falling out of our training patterns. We certainly have control over that. But Body Bar works as a great peak because it's right before finals for us. And the goal here is to get on a world team. Fargo's a great competition. Don't get me wrong. We're disappointed in a couple of the girls' performances. We would have liked everyone to do a little bit better, But the reality is, the girls who didn't place in Fargo had their best tournament of the year at the Body Bar and wrestled really, really well there. And that's what we wanted to, you know. It's a tough sell sometimes. Everyone wants to be at their best every time they're out there. But, you know, we're like Super 32. We're going to go. We're going to support it. We're trying to grow a girls' division. We're going to be there. It's a scrimmage with. We don't care how you do. We want you to go out there and compete and try some new stuff and work on the technical program that we've been working at. But what matters is making a world team, because that's what's going to matter for the rest of your career.
Mario?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier how the seminary now is becoming a satellite similar to what was going on in Michigan, or similar to the Greco program we have going on now in Michigan.
Sure.
I mean, forgive my ignorance. Is that new? I had never heard that until the whole unveiling of this money came, and it kind of came hand in hand. Like, yes, they're getting this money, and yes, now they're a USA training center officially. Am I right, or did that happen at different times?
That's been the vision since day one. USA Wrestling has been invested in this program. I'll be honest with you, my school wouldn't just start a program out of nowhere without some partnership with USA Wrestling. You know, like everyone thinks that, you know, I don't know, maybe we have like golden toilets here or something like that because we're a prep school. But no prep school in the Northeast, I can tell you, or anywhere right now, is trying to add a program and give themselves more expense when they don't even know if there's going to be girls that are going to come here. So when I pitched this to them, the partnership with USA Wrestling was essential, was critical to that happening. And now that it has, they embrace it. They love it. You know what I mean? But no one was saying, well, you want to start a girls program. There are none in the Northeast. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and do it. And here's a bunch of money to get it started. You know, we got other needs here too. We're a school that has ice hockey and football and, you know, all sorts of other sports and arts programs that need support. So we weren't just going to roll out the red carpet and start writing checks. USA Wrestling support and partnership from this program from day one has been critical.
Now, was there a big unveiling with that? I didn't see anything or read anything. I don't know if you did, Mario, but I didn't see anything that necessarily announced that there was this partnership and that it was going to be this extended education, you know, center. Was there anything like that we missed?
The verbiage on it and the wording, but I can remember some of Gary Abbott's press releases talking about how this was going to be a partnership. I think when Aaron was hired, Adeline was added to the staff, that those things had to be mentioned. I'm not positive. I would know, but I know from my perspective, my school's, my institution's perspective, this is not happening without a partnership with you.
So is it built on the similar structure that was previously in Michigan and that they're using right now for the OTC satellite there for the boys? Is it similar, different?
Listen, anyone can. Yeah, it's very similar. They're coming here. They're going to class. They're living in our dorms. They're a part of our community. They're in the play. They're playing clarinet in the band. They're doing everything that high school kids do. But the wrestling part of it, they're just getting to train with Aaron and with Adeline, and that's the part that is the kind of the wrestling end of it, you know.
Okay. Mario, you got anything?
No, man. I just thanks for answering all our questions. We went through them, and even the few that we had extra. So.
You want to talk some more? I got some more stuff if you guys want to hear it.
Let's do it.
Bring it on, man. Bring it on.
You tell me if you got time.
Man, you're talking to the wrong guys. The only thing that's limiting me is the battery on this laptop. That is.
Just be aware that you're going to open yourself up to some more questions.
I think I've been fair. I think I've answered everything you asked. So, you know, I think you're earning that questions.
Yeah,
so I think it's important to note when we're talking about fit. Listen, if there's a girl out there listening to this podcast right now and she's like, that sounds awesome, I want to be a part of that, she can apply. It's not like Aaron has to go like tap someone on the head and say, you are going to be part of this program. Our admissions process for our girls wrestlers is the same as it is for every other student. Okay. So if they're interested in it and they're from anywhere in the country, they are certainly welcome to go through our application process in the fall and in the winter. So we are all for that. We had some girls that we didn't really know all that much about, and they applied and they came here, and the next thing you know, we accepted them and we thought they were great. Next thing you know, they're like finishing in Fargo. They're in the finals, and we're like, wow, they're tougher than we thought we were, because it's still so new. Like, it's tough to be like, oh, that 14-year-old girl is going to be great. It's still so new that there's so much potential out there that anybody can apply. We're not like, selecting people to apply. Anybody can. Do we recruit? Sure. Are there girls that we target and say, we really think you'd be great in this program? Absolutely, we do that. But not every girl that's on our team right now was like hand selected by the USA Wrestling staff. It's the same.
Scott, does Wyoming Seminary give any athletic scholarships to wrestlers?
No, there's no athletic scholarship at all. Our aid program is built completely on need-based financial aid. There are some merit scholarships that are handed out early in the fall based on some test results and resumes and interviews and stuff like that. But we do not give. That's another huge misconception. People think, well, that girl's going there, she must be getting a full ride. I can tell you this: there are zero full rides. Every family that is here is paying what they can afford based on our need-based scale. And a lot of them are stretching, and they're stretching hard, but they see the value in what we're doing.
Well, I think Mario and I can attest to sometimes you get people who don't know and they start doing wrestling math. Oh, well, they must be making a killing. I know, Mario, you're probably a millionaire a couple times over, right? Despite not having your stuff together. But I know the same thing about me. And it's like, look, you can't do wrestling math. You don't know unless you were there doing the budget, doing those kinds of things, to say, oh, it's $50,000 a year times 10 girls. That's $500,000. Who can't do something with $500,000 for the girls program?
Listen, it's $55,000 a year because that's what it costs to go to a prep school in the Northeast. That's not because we're trying to charge and raise money to have a women's wrestling budget. That's what costs. That's what Blair costs. That's what all the schools in New England cost. They're a little bit more.
Come on, Scott, tell us how nice the private jet for Sem is. Come on, be honest.
Drive like 2004 Econoline vans to the tournaments. You know what I mean? So, like that's not like we're saying we're going to get this money from these girls wrestlers and we're going to build a budget off of that. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. That's the going rate for a private school education in the North.
And those numbers we just pulled right off your website, so it doesn't say wrestlers only have to pay this much. It is generally for everyone.
Sure, and we've got kids here who are on a good chunk of need-based financial aid, but their families are still stretching, to get them here, and they're not just wrestlers; they're in every program that we have at our school. And then we've got kids here, and wrestlers included, who are pulling the full freight, and they're happy to do it because they can afford it. So, there's not like, I think sometimes the kids that don't wind up coming here, boys especially, I think they kind of think there's going to be like a secret handshake at the end of the whole thing where we tell them, okay, you have to pay X amount of money to come here based on your need. And they're kind of standing there like, when's the part when you take me in the other room and tell me I can come for free? And I'm like, well, that's not happening. Like that's the market that this is, that we're in, And another thing I would say too is, and I'm just talking, so feel free to interrupt me. But the girls that come here only for wrestling, it's going to be a struggle for them. They have to buy into everything that our community is about. So they're going to have to expect to come in and take some challenging courses and work hard in those. And they're going to miss some time when they're traveling. So they're going to have to be willing to do the makeup work as far as that goes. We're not going to be like a public school. We're not going to say, like, if you miss 10 days, you automatically fail or something like that. We're going to support you. We're going to work with you, but you're going to have to do the work. Not every kid here is getting 1,600 on the SATs, but we're going to challenge you. You're going to work hard, and you're going to be expected to be a Wyoming Seminary student first, and then a Wyoming Seminary wrestler second. And that goes for a boys program, girls program, all the way through.
Now, Scott, yep. For you got a successful boys program. You guys are nationally known. You guys do a great job. Why girls wrestling? I mean, you don't see it at Blair. You don't see it at, St. Graham. You don't see it at a lot of other places.
Yep.
For you guys, why girls wrestling?
Well, we hope we will soon at all those places. You know, I mean, we hope we will soon at all those places. Obviously, there's a personal connection for me with the Tony Copeland story that I shared before. That's near and dear to my heart. It's a girl that who had a tremendous impact on me and my family, and losing her made this a personal kind of thing for me. But two is we have a tremendous platform having one of the top boys programs in the country. We have the ability to affect change. We can be leaders. We can use that platform to provide some leadership. So, yeah, I mean, I hope Blair gets a team within 3 or 4 years. I've spoken to a dozen private schools in the Northeast about what it takes to add a program. So, if we can use our platform to help lead and to help kind of be one of the people out there that is one of the first programs, we shouldn't do it. We need to do it. It's our responsibility to do that. Girls wrestling is going to save boys wrestling. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When I was at Binghamton University coaching, I was a student there first, and they dropped the program. And we all fought really hard to bring it back. I had the great opportunity to coach there for 4 years, and there's tons of programs like that are in danger. And the more that we continue to work on sanctioning girls wrestling, the more that we continue to work on, the NCAA emerging sports status and the RTC models and things like that, that's going to be good for boys wrestling. And I think maybe 10 years ago, a lot of people didn't get that, and a lot of people didn't believe that. But now that groundswell is headed in that right direction, and people get it. And we have a tremendous platform. We have a very, very good boys team, and we are going to be able to help with that, to help in any way we can. It's our responsibility.
Well, I'm really happy to hear you say that, to be honest. I've had very public, very brutal discussions with coaches who are telling me girls wrestling is a joke. Girls wrestling. My daughter started wrestling back in 07, and she went through college and stuff. And, you hear this, oh, it's not going to save girls wrestling. It's not going to make a big deal. But I said, look, if you, number one, double the number of genders that participate. Number two, little Johnny and little Susie have mom who wrestled. What's the likelihood that those kids are going to be wrestling? And then mom and dad possibly both wrestled. It's more than likely that kid's going to wrestle also. And you're going to see the numbers grow, and they just refuse to hear it. So to hear somebody, of your caliber, say, yeah, it's going to help save our sport. And another big thing too, not that you're in there day to day with the girls, but you hear a lot, oh, well, girls coaches are the guy coaches who couldn't hack it, and it's like, what? Like, no, I've coached boys. I've had some limited success, but to have somebody, like I said, with a national name that you have, it does a lot to hear you say that for the girls.
I'll tell you a story, I think. And if anyone doubts that, I mean, if anyone thinks that they should just come into our room once and watch our boys and girls training together, you can't tell the difference. And our girls were like, when they came in, they're like, the best kids in the country, the Bo Bartletts, the Zeke Escalera, those guys want to work out with us. They're more accepting than the people on our high school team that are terrible, that will never qualify for states. They opened us with open arms, But the story is, like, maybe the first month or so that we were here, the girls were having practice and the guys kind of had like an open room kind of situation. But Adeline decided she's going to start instructing. And one of the guys came and he's like, Coach, can I go around the corner and do my workout on my own? I was just going to come in and open the gym. And I'm like, you're good to learn from a two-time world champion. And he kind of looked at me like, isn't she? And he just kind of like turned around, walked over, and just started listening to what she was instructing. You know what I mean? And I think that was like a moment where we knew it was going to work. That our guys embraced it so openly and so well, and that we were able to kind of have everybody come in and train together. That's what it should be. I mean, girls should train with boys. Absolutely. Maybe not every day, but they should train with boys. They should go live and practice with boys. But they shouldn't wrestle boys at a certain age, Like, I mean, few and far between, but they should be wrestling girls when they're getting to the point where the real things that matter are the big events.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All righty. Well,
all right, Scott, I've got to ask you the question I drop on everyone, and I'm sure if you've watched or listened to a couple of the podcasts, you've heard me drop it before. But
I have my wife. My wife thinks there's something wrong with me. I like kind of just binge watched all your podcasts in a row.
And you still decided to come on. Gosh, okay.
Then you've heard me ask this before. I'm sure you noticed Sage Mortimer placing in the junior boys Greco division at Fargo. What do you think about girls Greco? Are we ready to add it to Fargo? Are we
ready? We're ready.
Thank you.
Let's do it. I mean, I just wish you guys could be in some of the conversations I've been in, where how far we've come with girls wrestling. I was sitting at my house with Adeline and the head coach of the Norwegian team, and she was talking about 15, 20 years ago, like you go to the European Championships for girls, and they would like do the awards ceremony, and they'd give all the girls who won their weight classes the awards, and then Fila would pull out like this huge award, and they would give it to the girl that was voted the most attractive wrestler, and they were like, oh my God, I can't believe that was like less than 2 decades ago that was happening. But man, it changed. You know what I mean? And,
they give like a placing medal like this big, and they give them this trophy.
That's how it was.
Oh my gosh!
At all. And like all the fans would be like, "Oh yeah, congratulations, you won the European Championships." And then the girl they voted most attractive would get up there and she get like a standing ovation. Listening to these stories from these like veterans and they're world champions, and to see what it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and to see where we are now, it's very, very encouraging. But kind of the best part about it is that there's so much more that we can do. And I think the support and the groundswell is there. And yeah, girls Greco, come on, let's do it. Like immediately. Like let's get a division in Fargo next year and let's go.
So it's safe to say Wyoming Seminary supports women's Greco movement.
We're ready. They come in, they'll wrestle Greco practice, and it's their favorite day.
Just so you know, Scott, that's going on a Swamp Monster shirt. It's going to be quoted. He's going to find a way to put a video on a T-shirt. And you made his day. I swear.
We had some Greco duels out here about a month ago in Idaho. 12 teams in Idaho, girls Greco duels. It was pretty amazing to see them out there trying to throw each other on their heads. Yeah.
More opportunity better, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, for real.
Well, hopefully we'll see you out here in California. I know our freestyle doesn't get going until after March. So, but hopefully we'll get you guys out here. We'll be in contact with you. Mario and I both have clubs and run stuff out here, so we're definitely going to touch base with you. And if not, we're going to see you in Texas. We'll see you, all over the place.
I'll like going out and getting sandwiches and tying girl shoes and making sure people are getting to the mats on site. Like I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to mess anyone's tournament up. But if they need to, I have to do it.
Well, if we see it, we'll throw you a 20 and be like, hey, could you pick up an extra one, please?
That's the point. I haven't got to the point where I can braid hair yet. Like one of the girls is like, Coach, can you braid hair? And I'm like, dude, like, no,
really? Just hit your limit right there, huh?
Like you got to go to line. You got to go to one of your other girls here because that's not going to be an area of expertise for me. I'll go get your hair next. So.
There, I'll get you a skull cap for a freestyle. Yeah. Alrighty, Coach. Well, we're not going to take up any more of your time. We appreciate you again. We can't say enough thank you for it. It really is. I can't put enough praise on you coming up, stepping up when you and I had some discussions coming into this, and you had every opportunity to back out. You were solid the whole way through. So thank you very much for that.
And feel free. I mean, you've got my contact information. If people have questions. And they're coming at you after the show and they're like, you should have asked this, send them to me. And I'm going to have dialogue with that person. I'm absolutely okay with that. And if they want to learn more about our program that we didn't cover today, sure. Get those over to me, hand out my contact information like it's candy. I could care less. I'm out there.
Well, maybe you'll be our East Coast California girls wrestling podcast liaison. So if we have anything going on out there, we could just hit up Coach Green and kind of keep them in the loop.
Sounds good.
And the invitation goes both ways, Scott. If you ever see something on here that you want to comment on, you can always hop in. You're always welcome on here with us. Thanks again for coming on. I know it's really easy to just say no and ignore this kind of stuff, but it's really cool of you spending the time with us.
Well, Well, I hope it helped, and I'm happy to do it.
And also, if you're ever watching live, you're more than welcome to just hit me up, and I'll just add you to the call. Like, boom, here you go.
Right.
Coach. You got that open pass.
He's got. I mean, I think you probably want me to get divorced at this point with all this stuff. Yeah.
I think all of us have been on that bubble at some point or another. Trust me, Mario.
One more pop. Dude, my wife's gonna love that. But yeah, I'm happy to do it. Yeah, awesome.
All right, everybody. Well, this is the California Wrestling Podcast with Mario, myself, and a coach, Wyoming Seminole coach Scott Green. We thank everybody for their time. Have a good day.